Friday. Welcome to Rotary. I am really pleased to be your president this year. And so we have some folks who are going to help us open our meeting today. Myra Page is going to do the invocation. Gary Parker is going to do the pledge. And Dennis Pepin is going to do milestones for us.
Please bow your heads. Lord, we acknowledge Thee as the creator and sustainer of all life. In our pursuit of the secular, help us not to forsake the sacred. We look to Thee for meaning and fulfillment in life. Bless now this meeting of Rotarians. We thank Thee for the food we're about to eat. Amen. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first milestone is all three names are here. Just before I get into milestones, has everybody signed off on their name and classification for the new badges? Okay, it's done. Okay, milestones. Member birthdays. Jerry Moston is April 1st, April Fool's Day. Do people actually have birthdays on April Fool's? Spouse birthdays. John Tyler's wife, Dee Dee. Is John here? Didn't see John. Michelle Marshall's husband, Justin, April 3rd. Anniversaries, Henry and Mary, 5 years. It wasn't April Fool's though. Club anniversaries, Mike Sweeney, 2 years. Salud. Salud. I know it's here.
Thank you all so much. I want to let you know that Henry is filming our meeting today, and then he puts it on YouTube, so you can use it for makeups, or if you just had such a great time, you can go back and relive the whole meeting. Okay, if you brought a guest today, would you please stand and introduce your guest?
Good afternoon. Is it on? Can y'all hear me? Yeah. Okay, now I can hear you. I am pleased to have as my guest Cindy Long with the Samaritan Center. She's actually giving the presentation next week, but she heard that this was a super tough crowd, so she wanted to come scoot on.
Anyone else? Do we have any visiting Rotarians? We do.
My name is Mike Holmes, and I'm a refugee from this club. I was banished to Austin.
Michael wasn't in the anyway. Okay. David Messerang has some announcements, and I think we have a classification speech.
Thank you. One announcement, we are having our orientation next week at 11 o'clock in one of the rooms back here, for those of you who need to attend one of those. And we are having a classification speech this morning from Kevin Restate. Kevin?
Thank you, David. Ooh, look at that. I don't even need to do the speech now. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Ristine. This is my classification speech, so thank you guys for having me. I decided to do today's presentation as an autobiography of my life. David said I need to keep this just under an hour, so I'm going to get started right away. And so I've got my... There we go. We wrote this as a book. It's a literary genius book, gripping storyline. You really love the characters, especially that Paul Harris fellow. You guys see what I did with that right there? Plot twists that boggle the mind. Are there really that many realtors in this club? I would have thought there would have been standards. So it was confusing for me, but probably now is a good time to let you know I'm also a licensed realtor in the state of Texas as well, though I don't practice in that field. It's a real War and Peace of service organization novels and a red badge, blue badge conflict. Oh, the tension. This is a must-read. The title of my book is But I Thought I Was Joining Lions Club. Diary of a New Rotarian by Kevin Rustine. Chapter 1 is the early years. I was born in California. Don't hold that against me. Lived most of my life there on the Central Coast. It was beautiful. I have been married now for coming on 37 years. I have 2 wonderful, wonderful kids. My son Ryan lives in Chicago. He's 30 and married, and I am like you watch a pot boiling. I'm waiting to be a grandfather at some point, but I don't think the kid gets it, so I don't know if that's ever going to happen. My daughter is a nurse in South Austin, and the word on the street is that my son will be moving back to Austin here in the next year or so, so that would be just wonderful for me. But grew up and lived in California, was a worship pastor for about 15 years, started as a youth pastor, and that's probably what really aged me the most. I'm only 24. So it's been rough. I was also a tile contractor for about 15 years, which I really enjoyed. And in 2006, we decided that we were going to uproot our lives and sell out of California and move to Oregon. So we moved to Bend, Oregon in 2006. Go ahead to the next slide. And I call these the lost years. We became workaholics. We owned a real estate company. We had about 75 agents in 3 different offices. And I also ran a large property management company that had about 750 units. And it was a culture shock. I thought when I got into it that people probably lived kind of about like I did. I found out that's not the case. And it was a lot of stress and a lot of work, but it was rewarding nonetheless. Met some wonderful people. But we decided at some point that it was time to move to the next chapter of our lives. So we sold our company and sold our homes and moved to Texas. And so here we are in chapter 3, the later years, and I like to call this chapter, Sure, I Could Be a Title Rep. I work for First American Title Company here in Georgetown. It's a company that's been in business for about 130 years. And we sell title insurance and handle escrow settlement services as well. And I'm very happy to be part of this company. It's a Fortune 500 publicly traded company. Wonderful place to work. I'm going to tell you what it's like to be a title rep. The title rep cycle. If you scroll down to about number 8, you're going to see small success. And then that's quickly swallowed up with more rejection. But that is the life of a title rep. My job is to go out and find real estate agents, lenders, builders, and find ways to be helpful for them. And so that's what I get to do. I do tell people that I now find myself in a place where I get to really do all the things that I really enjoy doing without the stress. I sleep like a baby at night. I've stopped aging in dog years now, so I'm back to the human scale. But I get to do all the things that I really enjoy, which is really just building relationships with people. Chapter 4 is just beginning. It's the Rotary years. You can blame Roger Chappell for that. Roger was such a wonderful ambassador for our club that just through my friendship with him, he very quickly mentioned what he did, and he was part of this organization and invited me to come. And I immediately fell in love with y'all and wanted to be part of it. So this turns out well, thank Roger Chappell. If it doesn't turn out well, blame Roger Chappell. One thing I knew was choosing the right headshot for the trumpet. I'm assuming I'm going to be in the trumpet this month. Choosing the right headshot is absolutely critical, so I selected this one. It's also my senior picture from 1980. But there you go, that's my headshot. Let's go to the next one. I've been working to become a bona fide Blue Badger. I started off red hot. I think I went through all of my requirements in the first 4 or 5 weeks, and then something happened, and it took me all this time to get the last 1 or 2 out of the way. But I am excited to be here and be part of this, and thank you, David, for handing me my new Blue Badge. My favorite quote I just wanted to leave you with. People do not decide their futures, they decide their habits. and their habits decide their future. And I want to say that that is one of the things that drew me to being a Rotarian. I've been familiar with the club for many years. Our business partner in Oregon was a lifelong Rotarian. But what was so attractive to me about this was I had an opportunity to witness firsthand people that have given up their lives for decades and decades in service to their community. And you can look around the room here today and see people that have been in this thing 20, 30 years. And that says something about them, and it says something about the organization. So finally got off the dime and said, I'm going to be a Rotarian, and today's the day. So thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you so much. That was a very entertaining talk. I enjoyed that. But now we have some very exciting news for you all. I've asked Carol to come up and give you this news. And you know that Dennis brought us our new name tags that will have barcodes on them, so you can come in and just swipe your. So we have something else new going on. I'll have Carol tell you.
Yes, and before I tell you that, I'm going to also reiterate what he said. For 3 weeks we have been doing this paper, or whatever you want to call it, of your information. And the information is really important because it's also updating your phone number and your email that I use through QuickBooks, not on Club Runner, but I will check it with Club Runner to make sure it's correct. So if you have not checked off your name and changed whatever classification you want it to be, then it's going to be what I have for you in the system. Later, if you want a new badge, you're going to have to pay for that. They're going to be about $10 each. So for right now, the initial one the club is doing, and we're really excited about that. So this will also be up at the front, so you can check that. But we are moving into progress. We are going to be able to charge our dues on your credit card. So anything that you have on your account, you'll be able to pay for it with your credit card. And the board has approved it. It's not going to be immediate, but we will eventually move into that, and you will know when that will happen. So, you have any? Yes, ma'am. Automatic draft. You can still do the bank drafts with checks if you'd like to do that. So yes, all that information will be coming out to you, and we just got it approved today. So hallelujah, praise the Lord.
Yeah, we're all pretty excited about that. All right, we have a special treat today. Michael Holmes is here, and he has asked to speak to you about something that's going on in his home club now. But we're excited to have Michael here. And Michael, I'm going to ask you to tell the club a little bit about an award you received last week, if you would. It's a Boy Scout award, and it's quite a prestigious award. Is that right?
Well, it might be prestigious, but I have absolutely no idea why I got it. It's called the Vale la Pena Award, and it's for Scouters, adults who work in the Hispanic community and help Hispanic youth. Of course, my friend Ron Garland
He's not here today, though.
is not here, but he received the highest award that the council gives to a volunteer. And I got to tell you, it's long overdue. Long overdue. Anyway, it's wonderful seeing so many people here. I recognize. Do you drink the right water? I mean, your longevity is amazing. I had such a good time in this club, and I regret being banished to Austin, but my wife likes physicians who are within driving distance. So, anyway, I now am a member of a very interesting club called Austin North by Northeast. And it's a small club, about 35, 40 members, and it's extremely diverse. We have a Persian, our president is an Iranian. We have Hispanics and blacks and it's fascinating having all these cultures involved. And we meet at a place called Casa Chapala, which is a Tex-Mex restaurant on the corner of Highway 183 and Burnett Road. And in fact, the owner is a member of the club and is going to be president in 2 years. But you all know what May 5th is, right? Forget it. Because our Cinco de Mayo party is going to be on the 2nd, which is the previous Saturday. And I'm here to invite all of you to come and partake of, are you ready for this? May I have a drum roll? Partake of the Margarita Fountain. Plus a wonderful array of Tex-Mex delights, and it's a nice restaurant, so you would enjoy it. And there's a disc jockey and plenty of opportunity to misbehave. A small auction, but mainly come eat and drink. The tickets are $30. I have a few of them, but they're available at the door. So I'll stay after this is done if you would like to purchase one. And I thank you very much for your indulgence. Yes?
May the 4th is your day.
May the 4th.
That's the Saturday. The 2nd is the Thursday.
Well, maybe it's the 2nd. You have the flyer on it. Then that's when it is. I'm sorry.
That's what it is. Yeah, thank you. Yes,
Yes.
Will the Margarita Fountain have glasses or will they just drink it?
Well, I'm asking the proprietor to provide straws.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Scott Mull.
And Nathan, you're on deck.
Yeah, quickly, I'll speak slow so Felix understands. He's in the pink shirt over there. Anyway, Alan Johnson, are you here? Alan, are you here today? Anyway, Alan and I are in the Citizens Police Academy thing. We've gone to 2 evenings. We recommend highly whenever that's offered you go. And they've got a new thing through the 911 system called smart911.com. Easy to sign your phones up to. Even landline, flip phone, doesn't matter. All your information is in there like that. If you've got a heart condition, everything, pets, anything you want to put in it. So heaven forbid you have to call, boom, they've got a lot of information right there on you already. So I brought a few of the flyers, so I'll have them here afterwards if you're interested. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just a real quick update. We are 2 weeks away from the 31st annual Rotary Club Georgetown Golf Tournament, Cowan Creek. Beneficiary is early act first night. Everything's coming together. It always does. It's been a little hectic, maybe a little slower than past years, but the committee's doing well, working hard, and we're going to have a really good time. I've got about 25 teams, so I've got room for about 10 teams. So please spread the word to all the golfers, anybody that you know. If they don't golf, don't want to golf, please sell the dinner and raffle tickets. I'm really excited. I was just very quickly wanted to mention this. The correlation between the beneficiary being early act first night and these two amazing young kids that I met last Wednesday night on the square. They were right outside of Georgetown Winery, and they were playing acoustic guitar, and it was just amazing the cover country that they were playing. So I got them hired for that night to come to our Rotary party at the 19th hole pavilion deal for after the golf course. So it'll be really cool, and get a good exposure for them, good opportunity. But I hope y'all can come out, and I appreciate all your support, sponsorship, everything that you've done. So thanks so much.
Okay. In your trumpet that's on the table and you get it in your email, please look for all of the dates that are listed in there. Early Act First Night has a lot of things coming up. We're going to skip Ron Garland's slide this week because he's not here. We'll come back to that next week. So at this time, I'd like to invite Derek McGill to come up and introduce our speaker.
Okay, I'll do my quick 45-second classification talk we're supposed to do with these. Derek McGill, about the time our speaker started in the organization he's part of, I was taking the oath on the plane at West Point. The last 25-ish years I've spent flying a bunch of different aircraft and also in the financial services industry, although I kind of flip-flopped which one I was doing more of on the calendar. Been married for 15, going on 16 years to Rosie, who hasn't made it to this, or I think she did one time years ago, but you all have seen my boys a few times here, including a few weeks ago when I honored them with the Paul Harris Fellowship Award. So that is me in a nutshell, and we'll move on to introducing our guest speaker here today. I was going to talk about a very interesting organization that not a lot of people know a lot about, which is the Texas State Guard. For a service club, I think this is a great speaker, and serendipitously happens to be the perfect day for it, today being Vietnam Veterans Day. General Bodisch started his career, his life of service, if you will, 50 years ago, 1969, joining the Marine Corps, and had a nice trip to Vietnam and back. And after that, he's been in law enforcement for 45 years, retiring last year in various capacities, culminating as the Deputy Director of Homeland Security and the Texas Department of Public Safety. You can see the extensive bio that you have on your tables, and take a look at a lot of the detail with that. But as part of the Texas State Guard, he also has made a couple of trips to the Middle East and CENTCOM, AOR in various roles in 2005 and 2007. And so without further ado, I'll bring up General Robert Bodisch to tell us about the Texas State Guard.
Good afternoon. Let me pull that back just a little bit. Well, thank you all for inviting me today, and can I see the hands of all the veterans? Thank you for your service. And all my brother Vietnam vets and sisters, thank you. Appreciate you. So Derek told me I had about 45 minutes to an hour to speak. But as he said that, I was thinking about Socrates. You know, he was that great Greek philosopher, and he gave very, very long speeches. I mean, very long speeches, and they killed him. So I'll be brief as I can today, because I heard this was a really tough crowd. So how many folks in here have heard of the Texas State Guard? Wow. Is that because you read the deal before you got here? Oh, okay. I mean, before you saw that. Okay, not too many. Actually, we were established in 1941 during World War II when they completely federalized the National Guard. And then the states realized, well, we still need to have security in the state when everybody goes off to war. And so that's when the state defense forces were created throughout the country. Texas enjoys being the largest state guard in the country and the premier state guard in the country, I'm proud to say. I joined this back in 1988, and it was my way of giving back to the community. When I joined the United States Marine Corps, that was my ticket to go to college. So I got my 4 years of college and started my law enforcement career and was moving from there. But then, you know, once you've been in uniform and you hang it up, you always have that yearning inside, you know, to put it back on and do some more. And so 1988, I got back into uniform, and now some 30 years later, I'm still wearing it and proud of it and proud of the men and women that serve your state as Texas State Guardsmen. And as Derek said, we are probably the best kept secret in Texas, except when there's an emergency and 1,000 Texas State Guardsmen roll up and come out just like we did in Harvey. We had over 1,100 members that were deployed during Harvey in Houston and in the coast. And those members, I'll give you just a couple of quick stats here, performed 1,005 man days and or 1,005 on duty, which accounted for 13,268 man days. And we rescued 1,352 individuals, either from the top of their houses, in the water, all sorts of different ways that they were in peril in Houston mainly. And we did that with only one injury, casualty, not a death, but just a casualty in Houston. So that was a pretty good record of accomplishment. You should be very proud of all your State Guard members that are in the State Guard. Can we go to first slide? Next slide? Because I know I'm showing. So here are the authorizing statutes. 32 U.S.C. Section 109 authorizes a federal statute that authorizes states to develop state defense forces. And then Chapter 437 governs us. The governor is the commander-in-chief for the Texas State Guard. And unique about the Texas State Guard is we cannot be mobilized into federal service and we cannot be deployed overseas. So we are strictly a military force for Texas for disasters and emergencies. Next slide. Eligibility, relatively simple. 18 to 70, so I see some folks out here, some potential recruits. I'll have some brochures here, like everybody else. I'll brought some brochures. But in reasonably good health and meet height weight requirements. We do require criminal background checks. And some people say, well, why do you do that? Well, in an emergency, a hurricane, things like that, many of our people operate the large mega shelters in different cities, and we want to make sure that we don't have any of our folks in uniform that are registered sex offenders or have criminal past that would impact when you have a lot of children and families in these shelters. Prior military service is not required, so we take all Texas patriots, anybody that wants to be a patriot and get in uniform and serve, then we're looking for those people. And all skill sets are welcome. We have lawyers, doctors, nurses, you name it, we have it in the Texas State Guard, which makes us very unique because when a local community has an emergency, matter of fact, we have 50 engineers of all sorts. And when a local community has an emergency, they can reach out through the Texas Department of Emergency Management, the SOC, and they can reach down, and we probably have someone in our ranks that can help that local community. During Harvey, we had about 30 of our engineers who were water and wastewater experts that were out there in the Houston area and all the surrounding areas trying to get their water and wastewater issues back online. Right now, the Texas State Guard has 9 full-time employees that run the organization statewide. That's the chief of staff, and then you can see here these individuals. Currently, we're asking the legislature, well, let me back up. After Harvey, the governor directed that the State Guard go from 2,300 authorized strength to 5,000. Now, the reason for going to 5,000 was in Harvey, it turned out that was a very large event, and many of our people were on duty for 30-plus days. So they were away from their families, they were away from their jobs that they do every day for more than 30 days, and that created a significant hardship on those individuals as well as the business community who employed those individuals, and also as well as for a lot of the families. So going to 5,000 will give us sustainability in a long-term event. So that's why we're looking to go to 5,000. We're working with the legislature right now to secure the funding and to add an additional 45 full-time employees at the headquarters and throughout the state, which would give us a total of 54 employees that would manage then the 5,000 force. As you can see here, current authorized strength is 2,300, and right now we're about 1,950. Just like the Rotarians, you're always recruiting, well, we're always recruiting too, as well as, and everybody is going after the federal military, the National Guard, the reserves, and us. We're all going after a very small pool of people, to join the ranks of putting on a uniform. So we're all in competition for the same folks. My headquarters is located at Camp Mabry here in Austin, and then we have an Army component, an air component, a maritime component, and a medical brigade. As I mentioned, the governor is the commander-in-chief, and the adjutant general of Texas oversees the Army National Guard, the Air National Guard, and the Texas State Guard. So those three components make up the Texas Military Department. Next one. And of course, this is our organizational task organization with our Army components that are spread out all over the state. We have 2 air wings with no airplanes. But, who needs airplanes? And then we have our Texas Medical Brigade, which is a very robust, we have about 300 doctors, nurses, PAs, the whole gamut of medical folks. And then we have the maritime, 3 battalions of maritime, which are a lot of our sailors and Marines, Coast Guardsmen that do dive operations and things like that. Next one. Basically, here's how we're lined out throughout the state with our Army and Air component. Next slide. And then, of course, our maritime regiments are spread out, and our medical brigade. Next. So, as I mentioned, the State Guard is under the command of the governor, and we're an authorized state defense force, and we provide emergency response and support to state and local government entities. And we're a rapid deployable force. A lot of times it takes our National Guard folks about 12 to 24 hours to get on scene. And we've had our people on scene in as little as 6 hours because we can just go straight from the house to the scene in our generally our own vehicles. But now we've developed a fleet of vehicles, trucks and vans, and we're stationing those around the state, so whenever people need to deploy, they can jump in those state vehicles and go deploy and be a lot quicker. And as I mentioned, we deploy to assist state and local authorities. We don't self-deploy, so we're not going to be a first response provider deploying on our own. We'll always be in support of a governmental agency, whether that's a state agency or a local agency. Here's some of the missions that we do, mass care operations. So whenever Harvey hit and they developed the big mega shelters in Dallas and in Katy and different places, we will send in many teams that will go in and develop those mega shelters, making sure that there's cots and blankets, water, MREs, delicious MREs, and all those kinds of things, medical assistance, and also the emergency tracking network. What happens when people are going to these mega shelters, they'll put a band on them, and then they'll take some information down from them. So if somebody calls and says, I'm looking for grandma, well, we can punch grandma's name in the computer and say, well, she's over at this shelter over here, or, wherever she's at, and we can track them that way. Also in Harvey, we started tracking animals because so many people wanted to take their animals, but when you got shelters where you have just people, you've got to then set up a shelter for animals, but you got to ban them as well so we can match them eventually back to their owners. We also staff the DPS State Operations Center in an emergency when they need additional troops and people. And we also have a lot of interoperable communications capability that we bring to the fight. Next slide. Land mobile radios, staging area support, so when a situation like Harvey happens and we get for instance, Home Depot said you can have our parking lot, then we start bringing in lots of commodities, water and FTE or MREs and all those kinds of things that we have to give out so people can sustain themselves during the emergency. We also do a lot of water search and recovery dive operations, boat operations, ground search operations, and we've done some specialized ground search and recovery operations, especially in Brooks County for the past several years. When smugglers bring people across the border and they try to get through the checkpoint, Valferius checkpoint, the smugglers and the coyotes will tell those folks, okay, look, you got to get out here. You got to go 5 miles to the east, and then go 5 miles to the north, and then 5 miles to the west, and we'll pick you up on the other side of the checkpoint because they're all not coming into the country legally. And then what happens is they have no intention of picking those people up. They got their money, several thousands of dollars, and they take off. These poor folks then get out on these mega ranches out there, especially in the summer. They get disoriented, they get dehydrated, they succumb to the elements, and then the wolves and the pigs and all of that, go after the bodies. And what we do is we grid search those ranches and recover bones and things like that so that we can then have DNA tested on those and try to repatriate these folks back to their home countries. So it's not a pretty mission to have, but somebody has to do it, and we've been doing that mission for several years. And as I mentioned, we have the engineers that do a great job, and we have also lots of attorneys and lots of chaplains. And whenever the National Guard does deploy, most of the time they're using a lot of our attorneys to do wills and powers of attorney, and as well as our chaplains when we have casualty assistance notification, things like that. We use our chaplains to assist in those efforts as well. These are a lot of the missions that we've had ongoing and in the past. So we've been very busy over the years and continue to be busy. As a matter of fact, we have annual training starting next Wednesday, and we'll train for about 4.5 days in the field at Camp Swift and Camp Bowie and Fort Walters. So all of our folks will be out there testing all of their skills, making sure that everyone's current on all their skill sets. Okay? And bottom line is we're Texans serving Texas. And at that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about the State Guard. Or yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just like the Army, we're set up exactly the same structure.
Any reason to carry any arms?
We're pretty much an unarmed force right now, but we are working right now with the Adjutant General on a security force mission, primarily for security for our own people, but also we're looking at the potential that we could have another catastrophic event where there's a lot of critical infrastructure that's under threat. And we could provide some of our folks in order to alleviate some of that threat by using some armed force. When we are called to state active duty, we are paid. It's not a lot, but we're paid. But I don't think any of us got into this looking for a paycheck, but we are paid. And we are provided, assistance and lodging and those kinds of things whenever we're called to state active duty. Now, when the troops do their monthly training, which is 2 days a month, that's not paid. And now, when they go to annual training next week, we'll be paying them 2 days of pay for the 4 days. So there is some pay to it. Yes, sir.
Are you helping with border security?
We've had about 47 of our troops on state active duty for maybe 5, 6, 7 years now. And they are dispersed out there. They're information analysts, and they're dispersed out among 6 joint operation intelligence centers. And so when all the law enforcement agencies in those sectors turn in their offense reports, these folks are taking the information, putting it into a database, so that if you've got let's say a smuggler that's doing something over here in this county, and then 3 counties over next month he's doing something over there, we can link up the investigators of both those counties, say, hey, you guys need to talk to each other because this guy's still operating, he's been to your place, he's been to this place. So they do that. And then they also are instrumental in working with what's called the Border Security Camera Project. So along the border, there's about 5,000 cameras, and they go out and set those cameras up. They go out, replace the batteries, or replace the camera when it's stolen by the bad guys, and maintain that project. They've been doing that now for a few years as well. Yes, sir.
You have a fairly large band up there. What are the typical operations you participate in?
Well, in July, we'll have something that's called Operation Lone Star, and we'll have about 200 doctors, nurses, and all kind of medical types that will go down to the border, and they will, as part of their annual training, they will provide medical screenings for people who cannot afford it or don't have insurance. And one of the real benefits of us being involved in that program is that a lot of the Hispanic kids, this will be their only opportunity to get a physical in order to play sports in the schools. So it's a real vital program. We've been doing this now for several years as well. And it's a good way to serve the community and try to help as many people that don't have insurance and don't have that capability to have those screenings.
Practice of our club to ask our speakers to sign a book, and then we donate the book to Pearl Elementary Library. So if you would do that before you leave, we'd appreciate it. Thank you so much. It was a great talk. We appreciate it. All right. Are there any other announcements for the good of Rotary? Yes, sir.
Next Saturday, April 6th, Grantville, Pflugerville.
Okay. Grantville and Pflugerville next Saturday. See George. Anyone else? Danny.
Scholarship application reviews. We're going to have a meeting after this meeting, some teacher application reviews. I'll have a few people help, which I greatly appreciate. Got a little extra time. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll be doing scholarship reviews for students, seniors graduating. If you are interested in this email, please look me up, email me, say, hey, Danny, where is it? Because I can still use your cancel. That'd be great. Thanks.
That's really an interesting program. If you've never done it, you might want to consider taking the time to help. It's amazing to see the applications too, and that's a lot of fun. Anyone else? Okay, if you would please join me in saying the things we think, say, and do. First, is the truth. Second, fair all concerned. Third, will build goodwill and better friendships. And fourth, will be beneficial to all concerned. We're adjourned.
Thank you so much. That was very good.